Hi, I'm Kim Brown. Glad you could join me today. And with us also today is Jennifer Hewat, a registered nurse who is also trained in alternative healing methods. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you, Kim. It's good to be with you.
So, Jennifer, you have been a registered nurse for a long time now, but you also have some additional training. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, so I've been a traditional nurse for 30 years. And as I migrated out of that, I went into holistic health. And so I began with something that really appealed to me and which health-wise I needed and was drawn to, which was holistic healing. It's called healing touch. It is traditionally for nurses, and it is basically a hands-on type of balancing of the body. And so when I got into that, I also started to understand even more that the body and the mind then had such a close connection to each other that they were in tandem. And so it was hard to separate. And so in my personal history and my journey, I had had an immune disorder, dysfunction. So I was curious as to how I could merge the two with my own healing. And so that's when I got into faster EFT, which was a tapping, definitely an alternative method as well, and it addressed the body mind, which is what I was looking for.
What do you think is the key to the body and the mind together instead of treating them separately?
Well, you know what? I mean, traditionally we have treated them separately, but what I learned from the very beginning in oncology training is that they're not separate. We would see for breast cancer patients, we would see them and interview them and ask them what's happened in the last year. And always there had been some kind of a sadness or a grief or a loss or whatever. And so they were still in that process and holding it in their body. That's where I began getting the body mind. The body really is just a servant to the mind.
Tell us about healing touch. What is that doing?
Okay, well, so what we have to do is just really back it up a little bit and understand that we're energetic beings. There were electrical beings. Now, the word energy has a really woo-woo connotation. So I invite you to, which was hard for me because I'm a traditional person, but I invite you to move along in that sort of understanding and get that because we're electrical and we know we're electrical because we can do an EKG. Put the leads on, we measure the electricity in the heart, right?
Yeah.
And we can put the leads on the brain and we measure an EEG. We know we have brain waves and they are electric, okay? So we see them going. And so as a practitioner, what we want to do is always respect the fact that the body is trying to get into balance all the time. That's what it's always trying, that homeostasis, the basic place where everything works. All the glands and the digestive organs, everything's happy and working together. What I do is that with Healing Touch, we're trained is to get ourselves balanced first and understand that there is a biofield, which works with my nursing background, biological biofield. It's a magnetic field around each person. And so when I go to put my hand somewhere, I am sending the magnetic field that is my predominant field I'm running. So I need to be in peace and wholeness. So when I do that, I'm basically cycling through balanced, and for me it's divine, balanced creator energy, we'll call it. You need to, in Healing Touch, you need to understand or believe there's something bigger than you. It doesn't have to have a description or a prescription. It just needs to be bigger than you because you're pulling in on perfection. You're pulling in on absolute balance, and no human is really perfectly balanced every minute. So we're just opening to that. And as we do that, it's like we're a conduit. And so when I put my hands, go into your field, whoever, and they're laying on my table, put my hands on them, I'm bringing in that balanced field right into them. So all I really need to do is put my hands there and the whole body will begin to balance. Anywhere it's out of balance. So it's like if I gave you a drink, if you're really thirsty, and I gave you water, the brilliance of your body is that it's going to take the water and put it right where you're the driest, where you're the most dehydrated, but you don't know where that is, right? Consciously. Right. So that's the same with this. I'm bringing you balance and your body does the rest.
Is that similar to like if I walk in your room there and I'm in a seriously bad mood, you kind of know it without me saying anything?
Yes.
Kind of bring that mood in with me, whatever it is.
That's right. really comes with you. You usher it in, and it's chaotic and it's scrambled and it's, and so that's why it's doubly important for me to be in a calm, grounded, peaceful state. I feel my feet on the floor, my body's in the chair, I'm breathing, everything is balanced in me. Because whether I'm seeing the person for healing touch or for the second modality with the tapping, either way, the person is out of balance, and that's why they're here.
So there was a point where you, health-wise, were quite out of balance. Tell us about your healing journey.
Yes, I was. So this is towards the end of my traditional nursing career back in 2000. And so I'm a mother and a nurse and a wife. And so I ended up putting everyone in the world before me. And though I started listening, there was a noise over here saying, you need to cut this out, you need to listen. And then there's a part of me saying, no, I don't believe that. The scarcity mentality, must get child number 2 through college, etc. There aren't any better jobs. I must have this one. That's all scarcity thinking. I was playing that, and I started listening to the other recording. And as I was listening to the other recording, it was a difficult choice. So I asked to go part-time. And so we got somebody part-time to fill in for me, and then they resigned. And so then I was back to, I needed to say, no, I need to resign and I need to stop this job.
That's a hard word to say sometimes, isn't it?
It was. And, you don't want to let down your people and the doctor and the people I'm working with. And so I didn't say no, but then my body did it for me.
And our body says it for us when we don't listen to our mind because of that mind-body connection.
Well, and actually the mind and the body, yes, are speaking, but actually what I have learned through healing touch and Fast-Treated Tea is that the body has a language. So if you close your eyes and you say, and you ask your body, or you just keep your eyes open, what are you really trying to tell me? What's the message when my stomach gets anxious? What is that right there? What are the butterflies about? Oh, if it had a message, what would it be? And there is, the body has a message, and we're the best at translating it. We are the master translators. So it's a question of, number one, caring about ourselves and listening to those messages and allowing ourselves, we were the only ones that can really change that, allowing ourselves to make a change in what we're doing and thinking. That brings us to our filters and what we do think and what we do believe.
And how do we develop these beliefs, these ways of thinking?
Well, so basically, when you're born, you're in a caregiving, you're receiving care from some people somewhere. And 0 to 7 mainly is when most of the imprinting happens, although it continues all our lives. But we take in the environment, the touches, the sounds, the smells, all through the 5 senses. We take them all in and we register them. And when I studied this, I realized that I found something I didn't know before, which is there are only 2 basic fears. A newborn is only born with 2 fears. Number 1 is the fear of falling, and number 2 is loud noises. So if you have a newborn and just that little bit, you let it go onto the bed, just like you take your hands out, it's just that little bit, you get this response. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we want as part of the APGAR score. When the baby's born, we want that. And then the loud noises, if it's there, and then all of a sudden there's a big clang, it'll jump. And so those are the 2 basic fears that help to keep us alive. Those are the survival ones. Other than that, there aren't any. They're all learned. Wow. So our environment, we're little sponges. All the tastes and touch and sights and sounds and smells all come in, and we learn to believe, when I do this, when this happens, I get food. When this happens, something happens. I get something in my mouth that tastes good, then I feel better here. But it takes a good while for that. But it's the rooting reflex. So, there are these basic reflexes that we're all born with. And so then they get layers and layers and layers and layers of conditioning according to what kind of touching and feeding and caretaking we receive.
So there was a pattern of training that led you to believe that you must be last in the caregiving of your children, your husband, your job.
Yeah. And it wasn't conscious. It's a good question you're asking there. I think because I was surrounded by most of my friends are women, and most of them were moms. And I mean, before that, I was in nurses training, and I was a caregiver. And before that, actually, now that you mention it, when I was 12 and I would be massaging my mom's feet because she had a missing bone in her foot and she would want to massage her feet. She would say to me, and this is one of the ways things get laid in, she would say to me, no, honey, you have healing hands. Maybe you'd be good at nursing. See, she planted that seed. So there we are. It's a little seed. I could take it or put it, grow it or not. And so then I started reading Cherry Ames, Student Nurse, books like that. And, the idea grew, and I kind of liked the idea. So then I went to volunteer at the Veterans Hospital, and I kind of liked it. So kind of grew that way. But there's always this. It's always there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's more care outward versus care inward.
When care inward first, maybe like on the airplane, it
Right.
would revitalize us, give us what we needed so that we could care for others better. We can enter that room more grounded.
Yes, we need to be more grounded. We need to have our oxygen mask. We need to have our breakfast. We need to have our body in full flight, full ready to go. Yeah. And the same with the mind and the emotions, all of that calm focus.
So tell us how you got involved in tapping.
Well, I think now would be a good time for me to go ahead and share my screen so that I can show you guys what happened physically to me and why I ended up into the tapping. Because with the healing touch, I was able to get my body calm. See, I receive everything first before I want to teach it, obviously. And that's really how holistic healthcare came about, was because I needed to be the receiver. I was the sick person. My immune system crashed. And so I had adrenal fatigue and some other things. And so, so I had to resign my traditional post in order to heal. And I had 6 different, heads of departments try to help me, and they were just blank. They're like, I don't know. And so I had to find holistic doctors to help me do that. And also some unusual practitioners, in terms of unusual to me because I'm traditional, but
Right.
alternative method of the, body-mind therapies, basically. So why don't we do a screen share for a second, and I'll show you. There we are. So the reason I made this graph, my husband drew it for me, is when I do talks in person, I show this. And so on the conscious surface, everything was going along sort of ordinarily in my life. And though, see on the left, it says trauma 16. And this is going back into my life, but this is how I want to show you what the body mind really can do. My mom passed away while I was at school. And so I'm an only child. So when I came home from school, my dad was at work. I found her there. She had just died. And so that was a trauma that was laid in, okay, major trauma. I didn't receive any help with that, counseling or anything in that day. There wasn't any. So that just got put into my body. So as I went along, I started bracing for the worst, basically, right? And life is not safe. So therefore, when people have that sort of thing where they have a trauma and they're bracing for something that has happened in the past, but they project it into the future, they get hypervigilant, like always looking, always waiting. And if you're one of those kind of folks who've had some things happen to you, you know what that means. Sometimes it comes out as being a perfectionist, making everything perfect for fear something might not work. So in my child's mind, I thought that she died around when she was 40-ish. So in my conscious mind, I thought, oh, okay, she died when she was 40-ish. I wonder if I will die when I'm 40-ish. That kind of passed through my mind as I went through 40. And I thought, wait, no, I don't have what she died from. She had a cerebral aneurysm. I don't have that. So I kind of let that pass. And it wasn't particularly traumatic at all for me, actually. But then when I turned 50, this is what happened. This is where the illness piece happened. And this came out into the conscious surface. I didn't know why, where, what, whatever. I just thought it was stress. And so then that's when I started looking at all of the different modalities I'm teaching you about, and that's where I kind of find out, how do I live life now for me? It was a lonely time. And that's really also why I guess I feel like I'm called to be a nurse now for people who are fighting, emotional medical illness, because it can be lonesome if you don't have a guide and someone to help you process what's really going on between your body and your mind. So all that to say that I started to understand about the body and the mind connection. I did received traditional counseling. Then I learned traditional counseling to help others. And so then I also got to the place where my counselor said, you know what, you've gone past all of the verbal and emotional pieces that we can do on a conscious level. I think you need to do something that will just now clear the brain. I said, what do you mean? So that's when she told me. At that time, it was just EFT. And so I learned that. And so then emotional freedom technique. So basically freedom from troubling emotions that are affecting your body still. And so that's what drew me basically into faster EFT eventually, because the theory of something being broken didn't work for me mentally. Somehow it just didn't work. And my clients were getting stuck with a lot of phrases and 12 places to tap. And they were like, I say clients because this is how my whole business started. If I hadn't been sick, I wouldn't have retired early from nursing. I wouldn't have had to face myself and what I was doing. I wouldn't have even known that all this deep trauma was even in there. Wouldn't have a clue. So it's really a total blessing. All this is a total blessing. That's really how I came to start. I mean, business is not something I like the idea of. I don't like, you're a business owner. I get
Yes.
that. But I'm still a nurse, a helpmate. What drew me into the faster EFT was basically wanting to release the remaining trauma that I knew was there, but without the words, try to help my brain clear the slate. And so what we know is that there are recordings in the brain. And so these recordings are grooved into our memory banks by events in our lives, which I just explained to you, my one. And so that recording, as you can see here, we know the old-fashioned record player gives us a good metaphor, though, a good visual, because there are specific headlines that come out of any trauma. And when a trauma is laid in, there are triggers, just like you've heard about folks that come back from fighting, and certain sounds will put them right back in it. And they're not in charge of that. It's like the brain just takes them there to that explosion. And so that's what we call a trigger. And so a trigger can be a sound. It could be a look from a person. A trigger can be someone's cologne, your first boyfriend or girlfriend. You smell that cologne and you're right back there. And you're like, how did that happen? And that's what the senses register. And so when we have those, see, then we have this perception. This is how things are. I'm not safe, or I feel safe in this color room, and I don't even know why I like this color yellow, which my office is, except that I know that it's a warm, nourishing, friendly color for me. But like, this is a nothing trigger. But I also had a lady here last week, and she goes, oh, your office is yellow. I said, yeah, how do you like it? She goes, oh, I have a funny feeling. So that's when I taught her tapping. She sat down and we tapped, and she said, I said, what is it? She goes, French's mustard. I go, what are you talking about? She goes, I put it on my hot dog at the fairgrounds, and it was my first date, and I was scared, and that was my first boyfriend date. I go, oh, that makes sense. Great. Would you like to let that go? And she goes, yeah. So that's when I taught her tapping. I said, just let it, it's an old memory. So that's how she released that. So that's exactly what we're actually doing, you guys, is we're releasing old stuff we don't want, because it gives us our perception of how the world really is. Yellow rooms are safe. They're not safe. People with white hair are safe. People with black hair are safe. What is it? So it's all about what you've got in your memory. And so we see these things through lenses. We're all, I believe, on a journey to look at, what are your lenses? Do you realize what they are? I bet you don't, because as you know, for glasses, you go into the optometrist and he gives you this one and this lens, right? And this one and this one and this one and this one, which is clearer. And you get to pick which is clear for you. And when you've suffered a trauma, an upsetting experience, a surgery, an upcoming surgery, you're going through a separation, or you're going through, heaven forbid, someone dies in your family, whatever. I mean, those are all major traumas. They all affect us in ways, and we do our best to cope. The body gets the message. I'm okay. I'm not okay. Am I in fight or flight because I have to run from this? Or am I okay? Am I safe? As a nurse, I'm all about that. Is your digestion system working well? Lots of people come with irritable bowel syndrome or chest complaints because we hold so much in the lungs and the digestive system. When we can find the memories that are there that bothered the person, we can release them and let them go. We go back to this recording. So when we tap, we actually kind of scratch the recording. We sort of make a line right across and say, nope, you can't play that anymore. You can't play that one, that one, that one, that one. I don't want to be played by that. So really what you're saying is to your memory, your unconscious, just hit delete. It's a delete button. You're in charge. and I can help you press the delete button. That's basically, I never thought of it that way, but kind of what I am, a button deleter. So yeah, so when we do the tapping, you know, we're pressing on these points, and we're releasing the messages that don't serve us. So we're going above the eyes, side of the eyes, and under the collarbones. And you could say to yourself, what the heck is that? Well, you know, we have these pathways. We have the pathways from the back of the spine that go all the way forward towards the front of the body, and it coordinates and energizes and innervates all the nerves that go to all the organs. And when we press on these particular ones, they're like shortcuts to relaxing. That's a program interrupt. It's taking the turntable. It's actually taking the needle arm off the whole recording. It just says stop. And so when we do that, which is totally in our control, and we just tell our brain, remember, we're in charge of what we tell our brain, we just say, let it go. It's okay, let it go. Safe to let it go. Just let it go. Now, what's so awesome about the hand is that there are organs, main organs here, the lungs and the intestines and the heart and so on. Those ley lines, energy meridians, just run right through your body. So if you take a deep breath, start to put your body in relaxation response right there, and then you squeeze your wrist. You're telling all those organs, chill. There's no bear. I made it up. Let it go. There is no bear here, right? And so I have a person who uses just this one, the deep breath, which puts the vagovasal nerve in chill mode. It says, you're okay, relax. And then we squeeze this. And she says, if I do that 3 or 4 times, Jen, she says, my blood pressure comes down. She has hypertension. Just doing that simple thing for yourself. It's being aware, listening to the body. It's always telling us it's our best friend.
Now, what would change if we did believe our body is our best friend? It isn't trying to wipe us out, to kill us. It really is our best friend.
It is. It's how you're showing up in the world right now. You know, without it, you don't get to be here. And so it's really saying, take care of me. It's just like having an infant. You know, you have an infant and it's your job to take care of it, keep it clean, keep it fed, keep it alive. And so it's just saying, feed me, keep me alive. So I think we pretty much covered the main things. I did want to mention to you all that it sounds easy to go into these places that we don't really love. I need anyway, I'm an extrovert, but I like to have a person coaching me along to do that. And though, if you notice that you're wanting to escape from things, you're totally normal. And I like to call it an escapeaholic. And we all do things to escape. Now, it's not just the evil piece. It's not just the evil food, the cigarettes, you know, the alcohol, blah, blah, blah. We all know a lot of them are fun, right? A lot of them, the credit cards there. One of my friends, you know, like that's one of her main therapies is to go out and get a new pair of jeans or go out and get, you know, something that, you know, feel better and all the rest. And you say, well, that's not detrimental. And you know, it's not, of course it's not. But the point is that there comes a time where we're doing a lot of wanting to escape, running from pillar to post to the extra coffee or the extra burger or the extra this or that or that. And so I would invite you all that when you feel like this, just know that it's a signal to yourself like, hey, something's going on that doesn't feel very good. There are ways for me to release and let it go. Faster EFT, I teach it as a self-coping mechanism. People learn to do that on webinars, especially designed for just our tapping. And we can do that. And Kim, of course, is a teacher of that. So if you know her, you also know that she teaches that. And so we're both practitioners because we respect the body-mind connection, and we both want to have, you know, a life as free of the need to escape as possible, as in wanting to be here, being fully ourselves, and being here with our own gifts. When you decide you want to learn how to tap, it's super simple. You can just do it now, you know, pick something that's bothering you and figure out, is it 10 really super strong or is it 1 hardly anything? And just notice how you notice you've got it. You know, maybe your throat is tight or something. And, you know, you just say, oh, I don't know what that is, but that's how you know. And you feel that and you say, wow, it's sort of like 4 or 5, I guess. And so then if you don't want that anymore, you just start doing this. You just start tapping. Let it go. Let it go. I'm safe as I let it go, because that's the whole piece. Are we safe? Therefore, I'm letting it go. Take a deep breath. Squeeze my wrist. blow it out. See, so already that takes me down out of a little bit of whatever that was. And so that's how we do it. So if you're interested in contacting me and you would like to talk about whether it's healing touch or faster EFT, I also wanted to mention, Kim, that mainly the healing touch has been done in person because they have a table over here and put people on that. But I also do this by remote. And you might say, how in the world does that work? And it's called distance healing. And it's really like prayer, or thought about a person. So what I do is I connect with you online. You tell me what's going on in your emotions and in your body. It's a surrogate treatment. So basically I put my handy dandy little bear over there. I put her over on the table and I let her be your body. I basically go into my prayer mood. I say, what does this person really need? I find out from what you've told me and what I sense. And so I get the energy running through my body and be grounded. And so then I start doing the treatments that I know to do to clear the anxiety and the imbalance from the body. So it's a balancing treatment. And so I did this with my husband. He was a surrogate for his friend in Chicago who was post-op surgery. And my husband felt as I was doing the clearing for his friend Terry, and Terry actually felt it in Chicago and had a great recovery. His digestion began to work again. So he was very relieved too. That's what we call the distance healing. It's a focus as well. So those are all options that we offer at holistichealthcare.net.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing those. As you were showing the record on the turntable, I was imagining a conductor, and the music is written, and the conductor points to the different instruments to come in as being part of those triggers. And we can rewrite that music too. Okay, I don't want the drums to come in at this point anymore. Change that music.
Very, very good. That's a very good metaphor. Very good. Yeah.
And you mentioned the program having a headline. I thought that was awesome too, because the headlines are what catch our attention, aren't they?
Yes. Yes.
With your distance healing, that just makes me think of how we're connected to people that we've met, have a relationship with, no matter how distant we are from them. That connection, once made, is always there.
Yes, you're right. You're right. And, that brings me to an interesting experience that I had with a friend of mine, that her son lives out of town. And she was concerned about a particular conversation that they'd had, and that she was feeling upset about it. And when he left for the last time he was visiting, it was a stressed kind of parting. And so what we did was she came and we tapped out that whole meaning of that for her and her triggers, but also her lenses. So when we tapped her lenses that she had seen it through, she was like, oh. And so her approach in her mind and in her heart already was different towards her son than it was before she came. And he wasn't here in the room. And so then within a couple of days, he called her, and she hadn't heard from him for a good while. And his tone was different. He heard her and she was different. She goes, Jen, how is this working? And I said, you're just really connected, and what you send out goes out. And whether what you think about is what we're creating, and what we bring into our consciousness is who we are and where we are right then. And to become more and more aware of being conscious and what program you're running, or whether you're actually, how much of you's in the moment right now. That's really, that's really a place where is fascinating to me. Long and short is that, they got back together, and he just started crying when she started talking, because she was just so different. And he said, wow, Mom, he said, I don't know what's happened, but it feels really different being around you now. And so, of course, his response to her is totally different. And, it's just really heartening. It's heartening to, to witness things like that.
So changing the meaning and our perception, our view, that lens has a huge impact.
Yes.
On changing the experience.
Yes. One wants to be willing to be aware to be conscious of what am I creating without guilt or shame. Like, here's how I feel. Here's what I'm believing, because it's what I am believing is what runs the show, what I make it to mean. Because if I hear a door slamming, you know, somebody walks out of a room and they slam the door, to me, all of a sudden my mind will make it mean mom, she got mad at dad, she slammed the door before she ran out. I don't have other references for slamming doors. If I want to rid myself of that, and let's say I was in college at the back of the dormitory or something, and somebody had a habit of doing that. And they didn't, but I'm making it up. I would want to release that trigger because I would be going there all the time. So, you know what I mean? That's an unpleasant trigger that one doesn't want. But what it lets you know, though, is that you're in charge. You're actually in charge. So you can see yourself as, we call it upper model and lower model of the world. You know, you can see yourself as the victim in the lower model. Oh, they always do that to me. Or you can say, look, you know, I don't like that. I can change it for me. Therefore, I'll change it for me and I'll let it mean something good. But you have to actually have the awareness of knowing that you can change that. So that's what we are. I feel like we're facilitators, teachers of helping people to create the reality that they want.
Is it possible that we will never fully arrive to the level of perfection here on our divine little planet?
I think it's reliable that we will never arrive at perfection, because we need to realize that everything is perfect right now, that we get somehow, you know, we get the lessons we need to learn, and we to whatever extent we believe that we create them, they come down the pipe. And, you know, we're always a work in progress. How much comfort and delight and joy in life do you want? That's what we're each in charge of.
Well, Jennifer, if you had one message that you would love to ask everyone watching this to consider, what would that one message be?
This, I believe, is the ultimate gift. Ask yourself, how could I love myself even better in this moment? Am I loving myself right now? Is this loving? Is this loving to me? To think this, to drink this, to eat this, and to do this. Is this loving to me?
That feels like it's brought us full circle back to the beginning of I was not caring for me. I was putting everyone else first.
Mm-hmm.
If I can love myself more fully, completely, wholly in each moment, then I'm automatically loving the people in my world more.
Absolutely. If you're loving the whole you, then that loving of the whole you starts loving the people in your world more wholly and completely.
Not just the people in your home, but the people next door, the people at the grocery store, anyone you come in contact with.
Your whole world, whatever that world ends up being that day. Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Nice. Nicely said, Kim. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us, Jennifer, and sharing your wisdom and your holistic approach. I'm guessing that maybe it's why you chose to call your business, we'll say, holistic healthcare, because it is the whole.
The whole. And you know, when that name came to me, I had no idea what it was going to include. I just knew that there were a lot of parts and pieces to becoming whole again for me. And I also knew that I had a lot of internal work to do. So I wanted to make it as big and broad as I could, so that as I morphed and changed, perhaps things that I would offer would be different. And lo and behold.
And we're still learning, aren't we?
We are, Kim. We are. And that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Well, Jennifer and I thank all of you for watching today. I will have her information again at the end of this video. Remember, no matter what you've experienced in the past, today is a new day. See you next time.